We were standing in the kitchen on a quiet Tuesday night, the hum of the refrigerator filling the space between us, when my wife leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone, and said casually, "You know, intimacy should be whenever I want. No pressure. No expectations." She didn't look up when she said it. Just tossed the words into the air like they meant nothing. Something inside me tightened. I laughed at first, an automatic reflex, thin and hollow. "That's an interesting way to put it." She smiled then, finally glancing at me. Small smile. Knowing. "I'm just being honest." Honest. The word echoed long after the conversation moved on, long after we sat on opposite ends of the couch pretending to watch a show neither of us could follow. Because honesty, I had learned, often arrived long after the lie had done its damage. We had been married 11 years. Long enough to know each other's habits. Long enough to predict moods by the way a door closed or how keys landed on the table. Long enough that silence itself had developed a language. The distance hadn't come all at once. It crept in slowly. Missed dinners, late nights, her phone always face down, always within reach. When I asked how her day was, the answers became shorter. When I reached for her in bed, she shifted away with a sigh that felt heavier than words. "Not tonight," she'd say. Or worse, "Why do you always make it about that?" So when she said intimacy should be whenever she wanted, something clicked into place. Puzzle piece I hadn't wanted to see. I tried to talk to her. I really did. "Do you still want this?" I asked one night, sitting across from her at the dining table, untouched plates between us. She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." "I'm asking because I feel like I'm alone in my own marriage." She stood up, collecting her plate. "I can't deal with this right now." That became her favorite sentence. The discovery didn't come with a shocking text or lipstick on a collar. Came quietly like most betrayals do. I was folding laundry when her tablet buzzed on the bed. She had left it at home by mistake. I didn't intend to look. I told myself that over and over. But the screen lit up with a message preview from a name I didn't recognize. "Can't stop thinking about last night." My hands went numb. I sat on the edge of the bed, tablet heavy in my lap, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure the neighbors could hear it. I unlocked it. The password was still our anniversary. That hurt more than it should have. The messages weren't explicit. They didn't need to be. Inside jokes, late-night check-ins, complaints about feeling trapped. A final message from her, sent just hours earlier. "He doesn't suspect a thing." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I laughed, once sharply, because part of me had already known. When she came home I was still sitting there. "What's wrong?" she asked, dropping her bag. I held up the tablet. "How long?" Her face drained of color. For a moment she said nothing. Then she exhaled, annoyed more than ashamed. "You went through my things." "How long?" asked again. She crossed her arms. "It's not what you think." That was when something inside me broke cleanly in two. The argument lasted hours. Words piled on top of words. Excuses layered over half-truths. It didn't mean anything. "You weren't there for me. I felt invisible. It just happened." I listened, numb, as she explained her loneliness like it justified mine. At some point she said, "I never promised you anything more than honesty." I laughed then, bitter and loud. "You promised me a life." Silence fell heavy between us. I don't know what possessed me to say it. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was clarity. But the words came out calm and steady. "I want a divorce." She stared at me as if I'd slapped her. "What?" she whispered. "I can't live like this," I said. "I won't compete for my own wife." Her reaction wasn't sorrow. It was panic. "Calm down," she said quickly, stepping toward me. "I didn't mean it like that. I was confused. I can fix this." "You said intimacy should be whenever you want," I replied. "So here it is. I want out." She shook her head, eyes wide. "You're overreacting." But I wasn't. For the first time in months I was perfectly clear. The days that followed were surreal. She swung between anger and affection, between tears and cold detachment. She cooked my favorite meals, left notes, touched my arm like she used to. "Remember us?" she'd say softly. I remembered everything. That was the problem. At night, I lay awake listening to her breathe, wondering when the woman beside me had decided I was optional, wondering how long I had been the only one fighting for something already gone. One evening, I asked her a question I hadn't dared before. "Do you love him?" She hesitated. That pause was my answer. The divorce wasn't dramatic. No screaming in court, no public scenes. Just paperwork, signatures, and the quiet dismantling of a life. On the last day she came to collect her things, she stood in the doorway, eyes rimmed red. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. He nodded. "I know." That was the saddest part. I believed her. And it didn't change anything. As she left, the house felt unbearably empty. But beneath the grief there was something else. Relief. Faith. The possibility of breathing again. Months later, I ran into her at a grocery store. She looked thinner, tired. We exchanged polite words. Nothing more. As I walked away, I realized something that surprised me. The pain had dulled. Not disappeared, but softened. No longer defined me. Betrayal teaches you brutal lessons. About trust. About boundaries. About the cost of ignoring your own worth. That night in the kitchen replayed in my mind. Her voice, casual and dismissive. Intimacy whenever I want. I finally understood what she hadn't. Love doesn't work on demand. And once it's broken, no amount of panic can put it back together. I went home alone but not empty. For the first time in a long time I felt honest with myself.